Hello and welcome, or you know the drill. Today I have another personal finance topic to share with you because I have some exciting news. I am now net worth positive. Now, a few months ago, I made a video on personal finance best practices, and one of them was tracking your net worth. Now, I understand that the idea of sitting down and doing the math and figuring out your net worth can be incredibly daunting because we live in a society of rampant consumerism and debt is incredibly normalized. So more often than not, it can be more comfortable just to ignore it. But it's definitely worth the time to sit down, do the math, and calculate your net worth, because that's the only thing that's going to give you a true sense of your actual financial standing. And then once you do that, actually seeing that number can be incredibly motivating because you now know truly where you stand, and then you can start making strides to improve your financial position. Now, since I made that video, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been super stringent about my personal finances, partially because my husband and I we decided to redecorate a few rooms in our house. We wanted to kind of reorient them, and that took a lot of time and money and energy, so we weren't spending as much time focusing on our personal finances as we were before. But even with all that said, we still had enough good habits ingrained in us that kept us in a good position and kept us on the right track. And so today I want to share the top 3 reasons that I credit with us being able to get out of the negative net worth and finally into the black. So here they are, the top 3 reasons that I think we've been able to improve our financial position. The first habit that I want to talk about, and truly one of the most impactful, is that we don't really shop. Now, I understand I just told you we redecorated a couple of rooms in our house, and that wasn't free. I totally own that. That happened. But other than that one very isolated event, we don't really shop. Shopping is not a pastime. It's not a way that we hang out with friends. It's not something that we do for fun. Honestly, now that I am so used to not shopping, the idea of going out to a mall and sort of being bombarded by all of this consumerism and understanding the supply chain of all of these items and the unethical practices by which these things arrived at the till, that's not a fun experience for me. And so maybe you're thinking, all right, stranger on the internet, it's probably taken you a long time to get to this point. If that's the boat you're in, then I will link a couple of videos that I've made in the past on how to stop shopping and how to change your relationship to shopping. You might find those useful, but once you get the ball rolling and start to see shopping for what it really is, then it loses a lot of its power. And I also think through the practice of paring things down, I've learned how much money I've wasted on items that I bought in the past and never used and then just got rid of. And so that's helped me to really be very intentional and very conscientious about the things that I bring into my life. I don't shop as a pastime. If I'm going to buy something, I do buy things, but whenever I buy them, it's a very intentional, very slow and deliberate practice. Another thing I think is worth mentioning is that I think shopping, or sort of the habit of shopping all the time, really stems from a position of lack. If you feel like you're lacking things in your life, then you're going to be out at the shops all the time buying things to plug that void. But if you switch your mindset from one of lack to one of abundance, to one of realizing that you likely have more stuff than you need, then shopping can lose its appeal. Or in my case, as I've pared down my possessions, I really like to not pay attention to the things that I'm getting rid of, except to appreciate some mistakes and learn from them, but instead to focus in on and appreciate the things that I am keeping, really feel grateful for the things that I am keeping, because those are the things that I've determined are the most meaningful and valuable for me. So if you're still in the process of getting rid of possessions, I highly encourage you to slow down and just sort of practice some gratitude towards the things that you are deciding to keep, and that can help to switch your mindset from one of lack to one of abundance. All right, so not shopping is all about making sure that you're not frivolously spending money that you bring in, and my second tip is to make sure you're bringing in as much money as possible. If you can find ways to increase your income, then that can have a huge bearing on your overall net worth. Your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities, or your cash minus your debt. And so if you're not bringing in as much income as you possibly could be, then you are effectively, or you could be effectively, doing a disservice to your life energy, as Vicki Robin, who wrote Your Money or Your Life, might say. So it's not something that I constantly have on my mind. I'm not constantly going to my boss and asking for a raise, but it is something that I like to check in on with myself every year or so. A year and a couple of months ago, I made a job switch, a little bit of a career change. I realized that I was at a job that I did love. They were very much my people, and I loved being a part of that company, but compared to some of my peers out there, I just wasn't bringing in the income that I could be elsewhere. And so I decided to make a career change, and now I feel like I'm getting compensated at a much more appropriate level for my skill set and for the work that I'm doing. Another kind of related thing here, and this is something that I've seen friends at many jobs not take advantage of, but if your company offers a 401k match or any kind of complimentary thing, make sure you're taking advantage of that. For a long time, with one of my first jobs out of grad school, I didn't sign up for the company 401k, kind of because I was afraid that I didn't know what I was getting into, but that meant that for a good long time, I was missing out on the company match for my 401k contributions. And I still know people today who aren't taking advantage of company matches. And that is free money. That is instant money that you get. It is part of your compensation. It's not your employer. Your employer is definitely reporting up to the IRS that is your compensation. That is part of your compensation. And so if you don't take advantage of it, then you're leaving money on the table. So make sure that you are getting as much money as possible. If you're not, for your time and energy that you're investing in your paid employment, if you're not getting what you know your skills can be marketed at, then consider switching jobs, consider a career change, consider getting a new license or certification that might help you to make some more money. The money that you bring in is really what you are getting paid for your life energy that you expend at whatever company you're getting W-2 employment from. So if you're not making as much money as you possibly could be, I really encourage you to explore what options you have to increase that income, because there's only so much you can save. Some of it is going to need to be offset by the amount of money that you're bringing in. So make sure you're bringing in what you're worth. My third and final tip is to have a financial goal. Now, I think I said that not shopping was maybe the most important thing. I take that back. I think having a goal is really the most important thing you can do to long-term improve your overall financial picture, because if you don't have a good idea of what you're working towards, what you're saving for, then it can be very difficult to stay motivated to do that. It's similar to needing goals for any other avenue of life, but let's take paring down the possessions in your house. If you want to declutter your house, then it's really important to be able to visualize what you want your home to look like. What do you want your space to feel like? And what kinds of activities do you want to do with your newfound time and energy, since you're not focusing all of that on your possessions? Similarly, it's actually more important, I think, to have a goal when it comes to your personal finances, because saving, at least for me, before I had a financial goal, was incredibly difficult. It felt more like deprivation than anything, because I didn't know what I was saving for. But once I created a financial goal for myself, then it switched from a feeling of deprivation to one of realizing that I was working towards something bigger. I was willing to put off instant gratification and buying frivolous things for this larger goal that I was working towards. So if you want to improve your financial position, I think having a goal is incredibly important. Otherwise, you won't be motivated to make any of the other necessary changes to accomplish it. Now, my personal goal is to be debt-free. Now, I am currently debt-free except for my house, which I listen to some personal finance podcasts, and I feel like everybody who shows up on those podcasts says, like, I am debt-free except for my house. But I have made myself so allergic to debt now that I really am uncomfortable with still having a mortgage. I mean, it's not something I obsess over, but I don't treat my mortgage like some kind of special debt that I'm okay with. I still want to get rid of it because my goal is to be debt-free. I think there's so much freedom that comes from not owing anybody money, from not living my life on somebody else's money. And that's really the place that I want to get to. So I have made it my goal to be debt-free, and that has sort of had implications for the rest of my personal finance picture. Even my mortgage, like I was saying, is something that I want to get off. I'm not saying that needs to be your goal. I'm just sort of trying to express how my goal of being debt-free it's become very pervasive and kind of encapsulates a lot of my other personal finance practices. So if you don't have a personal finance goal, I suggest sitting down. It might take more than a day, but give yourself some time to reflect on what it is that you're trying to achieve. Maybe you want to get rid of your student loan debt, or get rid of some particular debt, or get rid of all debt, or you want to save enough to start your own business, or save enough to help a family member out, put a family member through college, or something to that effect. Whatever it is that you want to be able to do, spend some time thinking about what you want your goal to be, and then once you have that goal in mind, really focus in on it, and that can be hugely motivating to change your entire personal finance picture. All right, those are the top 3 tips, the top 3 practices that have been the most impactful and effective for helping my husband and I to become net worth positive. Now you can take these tips or you can leave them, you can adapt them to your own life. Personal finance is personal, so find the practices that work best for you. But if I can hope to accomplish anything in this video, I hope I can encourage some of you to sit down and do the math and figure out what your own net worth is. I know it can be scary. My net worth was negative whenever I first calculated it, and no wonder, because we live in a society where debt is basically celebrated. It's so normalized, it's celebrated. So I understand that it can be scary, but it doesn't do anyone any favors to be in the dark. So taking that first step and taking that hard look in the mirror can be the first step to getting on a much better path. That's going to be it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.